Hello, hello, everyone. So we are back for a new career and spirituality conversation. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Pone, and I support spiritual seekers having a career experience to find alignment between what they do for a living and who they are as a soul. And today I am honored to have a beautiful soul with me, my friend Manish Sundariya. How are you, Manish, today?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you so much. I'm glad it's Friday as well, and the weather is excellent, so can't really complain about anything.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to start before we get into our conversation. Let's do a very short grounding, a minute or two. So I'm going to lead that, and then we'll jump into your career and spirituality journey.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So for everyone who is in capacity to do that, don't close your eyes if you're driving the car, of course. So make yourself comfortable first. Close your eyes. If you wish, give yourself permission to stretch your body. Take a deep breath. Roll your shoulders. And just for a moment, just feel the weight of your feet on the ground. And press your feet onto the ground. Just to feel the presence of the earth underneath us. And maybe just acknowledge its presence. And from there, just bring back your attention, your focus into the area of your chest and the middle of your chest where your heart is beating. And just feel your heart, connect with your heart for a moment. And I'm going to invite you to imagine or visualize as if your breath is flowing in and out through your heart. And as you're doing that, just breathe a little slower and a little deeper than you usually do. Bringing your breath gently to a calm, regular, balanced rhythm. And we just do this for just for a minute. And beautiful, thank you. When you feel ready, bring yourself back and open your eyes. And welcome back.
Wow, that's
Again.
refreshing.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
Manish, welcome, and thank you for giving us some time. And to introduce you, I actually love the way that you introduce yourself on our little preparation form. You said, well, just a normal guy trying to make the most of this journey called life. and yeah, I think that's beautifully simple, but do we say that accessorily? I don't know, but that's a Frenchism probably. But you're also global program manager for one of the biggest banks. And we are going to talk about that as well, and how your journey, your spiritual journey, interlaces with your successful career, career journey as well. So, Manish, I'm gonna ask you my usual first question. What is your relationship to spirituality?
Wow. Spirituality, I think, if I were to say, not sound like a cliche, spirituality, I mean, I would say it has become a way of life. And I won't say it was always a way of life, because uh, if I were to kind of look back, so I am 42 now, so looking back into all those younger years and looking at by myself, like, when I was in my 20s, definitely there was no hint of spirituality. You are footloose, fancy free, want to do everything, etc. You're still working, you have ambitions, you just want to run after things. But I think in the past few years, or I would say, like, half a decade, um, now that reconnection with the spirituality has come in, where, like, there's a different level of thought process. There's more to things. You're not running, chasing anymore, but you're more conscious and trying to ground yourself to say, like, well, where am I heading with this? And
Yeah.
and that's how I would kind of call it. My relationship with spirituality is now has become a way of life. You try and find meaning, and or ask questions and try and find the answers to those questions.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like there was like a fast part, and that comes to a slowing down and opening up to, I know, sounds like some wisdom or some
yeah, because I
quiet.
would say, like, because you're young, ambitious. I was a charging bull in my 20s, right? So there's nothing, I'm not looking at left, right. I'm just charging, because there's something that I have kind of decided upon. This is what I want to achieve by this year or by this age. And then you're not looking around anywhere. All you do is you just go charge, right? Not saying that I don't have those other ambitions and visions. I would love to do it, but now it's more about, rather than charging like a bull, now you basically could be more like playing smart, and then assess how you are going, and if I want to change the ambition or the goal that I want to achieve, I might as well shift those goals.
Yeah,
Like I said, trying to make the most out of this life. So
yeah,
it's got to be dynamic.
yeah. So it's not anymore about the what at all costs, but now it's also about how you're going through reaching
Yes.
what.
And not only by me, and through the course of these years, like, I think I've kind of worked more than half of my life now. So for being 42, and overall I've been working for the past 23 years. So that basically says, like, well, you've been working more than your actually age is, like, more than half of your age. So um but it kind of helps to look at the dynamics of how you've kind of grown in different phases, and what do you want. And like I said, you are a charging bull, so then you are working solo. Now when you actually grow a bit more mature and look around things, then it helps you, like, well, you know what, you can't really get there by yourself. You need a team. Yeah,
Yeah,
you need the support. Either it's a family, it's a work colleagues, friends, acquaintances, strangers sometimes, right?
yeah.
So it helps you to kind of move into a certain direction, or sometimes it just takes you in a different direction. Maybe that's the right place to go to.
Yeah. And so what about your career journey? So yes, we get that you've changed the perspective about how you approach it, but can you tell us about where you started? What are you doing now? And are there the ups and downs? And is there a particular time, or is there something specific that started for you, that slowing down or that change of perspective you were talking earlier?
Yeah. So probably we'll do a bit of a flashback in this case,
Mhm.
I think, rather than starting from where I started from. So I currently, now I work as a global program manager for some of the regulatory changes that needs to
Mhm.
happen for one of the biggest banks in the world, right? So that spans across, like, over 56 countries. So managing, working with different culture, people, dynamics of people and their thought process, etc. That's a very, very interesting and a complex situation. And also, the high pressure environment that you work in a banking industry, because things needs to happen like now. And in the technology, etc., everything is changing, very fast changing, people change, etc. But yeah, so I've been doing this role for a while now, and going back into different roles and then just to kind of take a bit of a pause. So I'm originally from India, right? So I was born and brought up in India. So I've only been living in the UK for roughly about 15 years.
Okay.
Right. So coming from a Indian background, and which is like a sort of another topic for another discussion, but the culture is different when you grow up in your family environment and working over there, and then coming over here, there's a different environment altogether. So yeah, working for this bank and working for numerous banks in these past 12, 15 years, I've been here in the UK, and then working back in India as well. Now that's where the big shift also happens.
Yeah.
So because the dynamics are different, the culture is different, how you treat your work colleagues are different, how your work colleagues treat you is different. There's a sense of respect, there's a hierarchical order, and so there's a huge plethora of like things that you need to navigate through to kind of either do your job efficiently, but doing your job efficiently is not really a success criteria, but growing in your job is more of a success criteria, either in your position, your roles and responsibilities, and it needs to marry up with the compensation as well, and then how supportive you feel. So yeah, that's been my journey. And then I started at the age of 19 working in marketing for a bank. I don't know, well, that just happened by chance. And then after that, I was just a normal college graduate in finance and banking. So call center industry was booming back in I would say late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm like, well, might as well give it a shot.
Yeah.
And so worked in the call center for a while, for about 4 years. And then all of a sudden, again, like life happens. If you're open, right, you keep your mind open, then you know where you want to get, but and then you can keep trying, but then suddenly, the planets align, etc., and all of those things, and all of a sudden somebody says, oh, hey, by the way, we've got a new business, and your background seems to be apt for it. Would you want to move to the other section of our business? And I'm like, what do I get? Do I get more money? And like, yeah, of course I do get more money. And like, what do I get? Like, well, you get to practice what you've studied, and you also get to travel. So I'm like, whoa, now you're talking, right? You get to travel, right? Where do I sign up?
Yeah. And when you said you practice what you studied, because like, what were your studies?
I studied banking and finance and management. So that was my how did they call it over here? It's the major. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because in India we call it as a primary subject. So sometimes that's what the subjects that I majored in. And then I never got a chance, but I was okay, because I was working in a call center, really good money. Like sometimes the bonuses that I was making was more than my salary. So I'm like, well, there's nothing to complain about. So, and then suddenly, things change, and somebody says like, hey, would you want to do that? I'm like, and then you kind of evaluate, okay, I'm kind of this level, would I want to work for the next 5 years, 10 years, working in night shifts in a call center? Yeah, and then like, forget it, let's go. So it was like an overnight decision. It wasn't really a tough decision. But and the rest was history. So I moved into the investment banking, working for some of the biggest banks. Today, so Swiss banks, etc. That's where I started from, and then moved my way from different banks to banks, and then now I'm here working for another bank. So,
and along this journey, so so first of all, I'm curious about you being originally from India. Does it influence your spirituality? Do you have relationship with, I don't know, is it
It's
Buddhism or?
Hinduism, so I'm a Hindu. But it's quite an interesting, Julie, because when you ask this question, because so I grew up in a very conservative. My grandma
Yeah.
was like a very strict follower of Hinduism.
Okay.
Like, everything has to happen in a particular order.
Yeah.
We do prayers, like morning prayers and evening prayers. The house cleaning happens, etc. And like, you can't, if you haven't washed your hands, you can't touch the gods, right? You can't do this or you can't do that, etc. Certain specific. But and right from the early childhood, and it was there wasn't really much of a thought process in terms of, well, why is it like that? Because you trust your parents, your grandparents, and all of that, and everybody around, and then you just go with it. And then luckily, I bumped into it, and maybe it's a fate, or it's how it was supposed to be, that I got associated with one of the organizations called Ram Krishna Mission in India.
Okay.
And I on Sundays used to go. There's this ancient Hindu sacred text called Bhagavad Gita, and then on Sundays I used to travel, like waking up early in the morning and travel, say about 1 hour by bus, and then go for those lessons to learn, to study about it. But that didn't really cut it for me, because I was like, well, I'm just reading these texts and someone is just explaining the meaning of these texts, but it's still not working out. And that one day it happened. So I came downstairs. So we do the recitation on the first floor. I come down, and like on my way back home, and I bump into this amazing guru. Okay. And he's a publisher, etc. Now he's in States. And I asked him a question, and the question was, why am I human, and why am I not an ant or I don't know, an elephant or a bird or whatever the case is? And then, because nobody could give me the answers, and I had so many questions, and I think that was the kickoff from the spiritual aspect of it, that I probably would sit down and he gave me the answers, and then I would ask more questions and he'll give me the answers, and then that's how we built up the relationship for a period of time. And
But
then
hold on, Manish. What was the answer to that question?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So the answer to that question was more of from a spiritual point of view, and then it was more about, like, look, it says, when your good deeds and your bad deeds are equal, right? Because nobody would want to, I don't know, want to live a life of a dog, or I don't know, a hyena, or whatever the case is. And human beings, we are considered to be the highest form at the moment, right? And what happens is, like, you go through the journey of multiple life births, like, okay, and then at some stage, when your good deeds, when you've kind of completed one cycle, you finally come to a epicenter, to a point, not epicenter, but to a point where you get a choice. Either you rejoin the circle, or then it's like a Venn diagram, and then you move on to the next part of your life. And that's the deciding factor as a human. What you do in this life will decide whether you join the same circle again and come back after, I don't know how many lives.
Yeah.
And then you get an opportunity to break through the circle and join the higher circle, or the bigger circle, or the, I don't know, whatever term you want to call it. But this is the reason why you got this opportunity. Now, what you do with this life will decide what happens next. So, and that was like, wow. And that sat with me, because anyone could give me a religious response, saying that, well, you know what, God made you, blah 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 blah, and your karma and all of those things. Okay, different religions would have a different answer, but none of those answers were kind of sitting with me, and I'm like, well, it's not making sense. It's still not making sense. But when he mentioned that I was like, well, that makes actually sense, because you get an opportunity. You have a brain now. You have the will. You have a decision-making power to do the right thing or the wrong thing, to do the good, to do the bad, and then how you rise yourself above all of those things. And it's a challenging life. It's a rather more challenging life being a human rather than being an animal, right? Because they have a shortest lifespan, etc. You feed them, they hunt, and etc., or get hunted and they die. You are not getting hunted, or so you're
Hopefully.
navigating through so many different spheres because you've got the brain, you've got the thought process to kind of go through it.
So there's been one circle, possibly one circle, that once we've exhausted the circle of being an animal, maybe then we get an opportunity to jump into the circle of being a human, and then
No, you are at the point, the intersection of two circles, then you become human. If I were to, I'll probably draw it next time, right? You have two circles over here, and you're at the intersection of these two circles. Now you decide what you do with this life will take you back to the same circle that you had been following, or now, and if it tilts towards a bit of on the right, then you join the other circle. Then you actually go into a different phase, like maybe an evolved human being. You could still be a human being, but maybe a different, more evolved, or you kind of break through the circle of life and death, and you become more like a spiritual soul, etc. Different dimensions that we kind of talk about.
So you could become a spiritual guide or so. Well, I don't,
so you could move into different dimensions. As we kind of in the spiritual world, we talk about there are multiple dimensions, and this is more like dimension as a lower case, and it's actually not even the lower case. I think this is like the middle layer where you are at, and what you do depends upon whether you go up or you go down. Repeat.
That's super interesting. So that's your guru taught you that. And before I interrupted you, you were telling us that he had a major influence on your on your spiritual journey. So what, if we are coming back to that point, what changed after once you met this person?
Well, I had so many beliefs. Well, wrong beliefs, or the others' beliefs that were instilled into me by others.
That
was instilled into me by others, right? Because people tell you, etc. And I think I was about 13 or 14-year-old that time, right? And then you don't have much of a circle, a social circle, right? So the only things that you go to school, you have normal education, etc., and you're taught, and then your parents, your grandparents, your uncles, aunts, cousins, etc., whatever they're talking, etc., you're building up certain things. And like I said, my grandma was like a huge influence, because she was like one of the powerful women in the family. So, and then you grow up in a Hindu household, etc., and then there are different things that they kind of say, and these are the do's, these are the don'ts, etc. It was like glass shattering after that particular discussion, because I had so many other questions, and that we went back and forth in terms of like, well, I say one of the sensitive topics about is the religions, the Hindus, the Muslims, etc., and all of that. There are they don't get along that very well, etc. There are different beliefs that kind of builds on top of it. And then those question answer session that I had, just the way sort of we are having right now, and then I would have that like every week, and I can't wait for the weekend to come and for me to go and talk to him again. And then it clarified a lot of things, and that broke it. I wouldn't say that broke those unnecessary beliefs, but also it opened up the whole perspective and mind. And I think ever since after that, there was no looking back. At least from a thought process, because now you're thinking bigger and wider, and you're not thinking in small little silos either, looking at like, this is mine, this is me, and this is my religion, or this is my family, etc. Now you're thinking a bit more wider, and how you contribute.
And so how with that, which of this wisdom or knowledge, how has that possibly influenced your career choices or choices?
If I were to be perfectly honest, I don't think it did influence my career choices. I didn't really make too many choices in terms of like, choosing this is exactly what I want to do, right? Fortunately, unfortunately, these opportunities just landed. And this was also one of those points I was talking with my guru at that time, is also about like, well, how do the theory of replacement happens? And like, well, everything gets replaced one way or the other. Mother Nature is super powerful and way too intelligent. Okay. So if Mother Nature needs to place you from India to London here, she's going to make a space for you
Wow.
and then create those opportunities for you to move over here. So, and I truly believe in that. Like, you know, it just creates those space, and it could also be a manifestation, because then subconsciously you creating that space for yourself to do certain things, for certain things to happen. So either way we look at it, it's a manifestation, the Mother Nature. It's all intermingled in on its own to say like, yeah, okay, you're creating that space. So I think maybe I might have manifested at some stage that I would love to go work in a banking, but also I wanted to be independent and at least financially. So and that was one of the biggest target I had. Like, I just want to be financially independent. I had certain goals, and like, okay, by the age of 30 I need to be earning this much, and I need to be saving this much, and 35, 40, 45, so on and so forth. So it just landed up, and I'm sitting in banking now.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I totally enjoy it.
Oh, yes, that's the important point. So you studied banking. So I assume that was an area of interest in the first place, correct?
Oh yeah, economics was one of my favorite subject. Like, you know, I had my teachers, when they would teach economics, I would just pay attention to it, and I never opened up the books during the exams, because I paid so much of attention that you could relate everything, how everything is kind of interrelated, you just knowing economics. So that was my favorite subject. And then working in banking, it helps, because banking is one of the key drivers for economics as well. Of course, business is there, but business and banking sort of goes hand in hand.
Okay, so you had like an area of strong interest, of like, I don't know if passion is an adequate word for
Yeah,
economics,
no,
but
yeah, it's a very, very strong area of interest. Yeah.
Okay, and so you had that, and you had also a vision. I mean, even if it was like financial vision of the money that you wanted to make, so you had a clear goals. So, and did you manifest, or did you reach the goals that you had set up for yourself?
Yeah, actually. And the fact that you're asking me this question, it makes me think, because, you know, sometimes you take it for granted, like, yeah, done, okay, check, done, move on, right? You're not looking at what you've already achieved, etc. Now you're like, well, okay, I'm looking at what do I want next, right? And then the fact that you ask this question, actually, yes, because there might have been a delay, maybe a year or two, in terms of achieving some of those milestones or landmarks that I wanted to cross over, saying like, by this age, by the time I'm 30, I need to be earning this much money, etc. And I need to have this much of savings. Wasn't easy, no doubt about it, because it comes with a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work and persistence. But yeah, I mean, where I am right now, I won't say I'm like 100% satisfied, because then I might as well just quit my job tomorrow, right? Because never satisfied, right? But then again, there is a point I do have certain goals, and like point when I say like, right, now it's time out.
Yeah.
Now I'm done.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be running into the corporate world, etc., and all of those things. But I want to focus on maybe other aspects that life has to offer. And maybe that's the spiritual connection, because it guides you to say, well, I think it's time for you to call it quit.
Okay, because when you're explaining your journey, and you're just saying, okay, maybe it's now that the spiritual connection, I want to open to something new, but how you led the first part of your journey, meaning having like following a passion, you know, like, or something that you're really interested in, first of all, and then having visions and having a clear vision of where you want to go in life. That's in itself, it's also, to me, it sounds like, yeah, like being aligned in a sense spiritually as well.
Yeah, you can, yeah, you can call it that. Is the fact that the way you put it across very beautifully.
Yeah,
uh
because we
yeah.
can, it's not so, okay, I believe that if we are not aligned in a sense between where what we love to do and the actions that we take in order to do that, uh then it doesn't work. Then we can't hit, you know, we are not, it's challenging to reach the goals that we are to manifest. We can't really manifest what we are envisioning when we don't have that alignment in the first place. And I believe these are already, in a sense, some spiritual principles. So it sounds to me like, without even thinking about spirituality, that first part, you were like acting it out without thinking of it. I don't know if that's a
No,
good.
and it makes sense as well, Julie, because I remember this, because these are actually triggering, firing, and a lot of thoughts and doing retrospectives, and I don't think I had ever chalked out the finer details that I need to be financially independent and I need to be saving, have this much of savings, or need to be earning this much, or be in this position at this age, working in a certain industry or a certain bank or a certain organization, or doing it all by myself. I did not chalk out those details, but I do know that
Mhm,
I need to hit that target.
mhm,
That's me. It needs to happen. Failure had never been an option.
mhm.
So all you do is, like, you set those target, and then where you are at right now, keeping an open mind, and just keep charging.
Yeah, because it sounds like, yes, it was all the hard work, of course, but it sounds like, that's why I'm saying there is a spiritual part of as well, is that there is, like, it's like Mother Nature has helped in a sense,
Oh,
and it
sure.
wouldn't have helped if there was no,
Oh,
connection there.
tell me about that. The
Yeah.
number of prayers and me constantly repeating myself, and then constantly thinking over the same thing over and over again. I need to do this, need to do that. This is what I really, really need to achieve this. I need to do that. Prayers,
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And then prayers is also a form of manifestation, right? Because
Mhm.
you're repeating the same thing. And
Yeah.
it kind of, and it took so many years
Yeah.
to kind of keep doing, and it's still ongoing. It's an ongoing exercise, because I would still pray when if I, and I try and do a practice in terms of, like, before I start work in the morning. I would probably try, and depending upon how, like, before the meetings, I kind of get into non-stop meetings. I try and do a little prayer, and just a sort of a meditation
Yeah.
before you log in, and that's more than enough to just ground yourself, and prayers to your work colleagues,
Yeah.
direct work colleagues, indirect work colleagues, stakeholders, managers,
Yeah.
random people that sending out emails, etc. And I'm like, okay, right, guys, let's succeed together.
Yeah.
Or I was like, or help me to have a brilliant day. Right?
Mhm.
And in return, I'll do whatever I can to help you to have a brilliant day. And I would recommend to practice it. It's a 5-minute exercise. Close your eyes. If you're working from home, open up your laptop and then just close your eyes. And you don't need to name your work colleagues or people you're working with. It's just like sending out a blessing to
Mhm.
them. It's like, we used to do this heart coherence, right? And this is the heart coherence I'm talking about. Like, you send that blessing from your heart,
Yeah.
and then you could feel like light that you're in your heart, and then kick off. right? And you don't need to think anymore the rest of the day. You've set that intention, and that it sent out those blessings, and that heart, say, uh, uh, what is it, like, why am I losing? Okay.
Heart
Intentions, yeah,
yeah.
intentions, and the energy to everybody. And then it kind of comes back. Well, I'm not going to say that it's going to happen 100% of the times, but you keep practicing it.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps growing. I have personally experienced this. Personally experienced it. Like, I would say about a couple of years ago, in my current work area, I've been struggling like crazy, because it's a very, very, I would say, high pressure environment, right? And then if I'm working with like 23 odd countries at the same time, you have to manage and mingle around and etc. And then you have different reporting, etc. I was like, wow, way too overwhelming. One stage I saw myself working like 18, 20 hours a day and still not really managing, not being able to do it. And I'm like, well, okay, now I'm in a survival mode, because, and then something is definitely not right. What am I doing over here? And then I had to take a break for a couple of days, which was like reluctant break, because I didn't want to take a break because I was afraid. I was in the fear zone, and not in the zone where I'm more confident about. And then, like, let's take a break and let's see, read a few books, and did some meditations. And then, like, okay, and one of my friends, she's a healer as well. And then, having spoken with her, she told me, like, how about doing this sort of a meditation? You send some blessings to them, okay? And then, given the fact that you're in a critical survival mode right now, how about, why don't you do it non-stop?
Wow.
Because imagine, so in my head, I'm like, I'm at the bottom right now. If I need to come up to the surface, okay, I don't have too much of oxygen in my lungs left. So all I need to do is I need to really paddle my way up very, very fast and very, very quick. So then it's like in a non-stop going on, including the Honoponopono and all of those things was just going on non-stop in my head. And I'm like constantly doing it. And to the point, like, actually now I can feel things moving now without me doing much. Like, the people have calmed down a little bit, rather than like, oh God, well, because if certain things is not happened in a certain period of time, people would just immediately hit the panic button and was like, well, World War III now, right? Doomsday, run. So it was that thing, but also it could have, I've built it up in my head as well, but things kind of changed. And now we are to the point that, like, we have fantastic working relationship, right? And there's a trust that has been built, given the fact, like, we spend a significant part of our daily life working. Those work colleagues. You definitely need to find that working relationship with them, and putting some effort to getting to know them, and not just like, hi, you're right, mate, and kind of a thing. Okay, let's get on to business. Spending some time with them, it helps quite a lot.
So from what you're describing, I love that it actually shows that by doing the work inside, we're having an impact on the world outside.
Oh yeah.
So like all of this change in your working relationships and people calming down, it only happened because you took responsibility for your inner state and you worked on changing it, right?
Oh yeah, because I was in the panic mode, right? Because not thinking, again, charging, right? It was more of a charging thing. Okay, this is not done. Okay, then everyone, it's a chain reaction. Everyone's like in a panic mode, and someone needs to break that cycle. And it was more about like, okay, okay, let's calm down now. And what happens? So, but then it was also to the point because that's where spirituality and consciousness comes in, because I have a team of people working for me across multiple countries in different capacities, etc. And then I have a lot of people that I need to face off at a very, very senior management level, right? Sometimes the CEOs and the CROs of those countries. And therefore, you take a hit temporarily.
Yeah.
So that you're not passing it down, because that's how you break the cycle. Because I'm just passing it down. So I'm like, well, it's never going to stop, right? It's just going to keep flowing. Why it doesn't? They say there was this one of the memes. They say like the shit always falls from the top, right? So one of those pictures, if you remember, right? So
yeah.
So all you need to do is like, well, you probably sometimes you just kind of collect it yourself rather than you shitting it down.
Yeah.
So it helped, like, you take absorbing everything and all, but working on yourself and then try and push it back again, build up those relationships while you safeguard your team.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because there was a topic I wanted to address with you, that how you're managing your team. Because like a couple of conversations ago, I was talking with Mark Crowley, and who talks about leading from the heart, and that was one aspect of not passing on what comes from the top to the people underneath. So having that, I will say, generosity and kindness, and like you said, to break the cycle, and allowing so that other people don't have to carry the weight of and getting into this survival mode, and generating a different dynamic.
100%. I mean, those poor people, right, who are working, either they are, say, business analysts or developers or testing people or project managers, right? I mean, if they don't have the exposure at what's happening right at the top, right? Then why it's you can't justify why should they be really going through the intensive pressure environment just because a manager cannot handle the pressure. Because you need to, that's why you are a manager. That's how you've grown into that role in a position, not just because you've been working in a particular role for a long period of time, and therefore we're going to promote you as a manager, whether you deserve it or not. You're like, well, come to think about it, I've been doing this job for a long time. Okay, it's a natural career progression. We're going to make you a manager. But a manager is something that you need to think more beyond. You're a leader. You need to be a leader, not just a manager, right? And it becomes that how do you manage the different people around you, either your seniors, your colleagues, your counterparts, your juniors as well, and then how you you grow, but at the same time you need to make sure you bring those people along with yourself as well. And leading by example, as people keep saying, could be a cliche, but also not necessarily just by example. I think it's a conscious leading is more important, that you spend time with people, because as I mentioned earlier, you spend a significant part of your day with people. And if you have a conscious interaction, it makes it more meaningful. And asking someone a simple question saying like, how are you? And actually meaning it, saying that actually, how are you? Right. And it makes a huge difference. And sometimes, like, someone says that, well, my wife is ill or my niece is ill, etc. And not just randomly sending the email saying, I'm sorry to hear that, hope she gets better, hope you feel better, but actually following up with them, saying, either if you have their number, you follow with them, or when they rejoin, then you ask them, saying like, are you really okay or not? And if you really want to take some more time, feel free to, because the work is always going to be there, right? Whether you're there or not, right? It's not like the organization is going to crash just or go bankrupt because you stop working today, but people make the organization.
Yeah, it's funny, Manish, because you said the word conscious leading, and I know the word conscious is being thrown here and there a lot, conscious leadership, conscious, business, conscious parenting, whatever. And sometimes I wonder, what do we, what does it really mean, conscious, in that context? And I think you gave us the best demonstration of what conscious means in what you just described. It's like conscious leading is asking how you are and meaning it. It's like being there, being really there.
Thank you so much. And it has to be there, right? Because look, I'm spending significant part of my life, not necessarily like forget about it. If you and I are working together, and if we've been working together maybe for a year, I've spent about 60% of my year with you, more than with my own family.
Crazy.
So why wouldn't I be caring more about you? Because hey, you make me look better, right? You make me look good, and therefore, why would I want to kill the chicken who lays the golden egg? So, but jokes apart, but you do, because they are people, and and I've seen a significant shift in the people that I've been working in. Instead of like, me being a decision maker and be the bottleneck, I've kind of given them more of an open hand now. Because if I'm attending all the meetings, trust me, I need to clone myself, right? And then I end up exhaustion, right? So now it's more about like selectively choosing and asking them, do you really need me for a particular discussion? What do you want to achieve? And helping them, not just randomly like, well, okay, I'm just going to have a meeting. I don't even know why am I actually going to have a meeting for, but I'm still going to have a meeting. So it's more about like, what do you want from me in this? Do you really need me? No, not really, but I'm just keeping you in the loop. So that you are aware of it. I'm like, thank you very much. Why don't we do one thing? Save your emails for me, because I don't have to read more emails. Why don't we have, like, I don't know, a fortnightly catch up?
Yeah.
And if there's something urgent, you text me saying that, well, I need you now. And if there's a decision that needs to be made, you make the decision, and I will empower you to make sure that you make the right decision. Even if it's not the right decision, don't worry about it. One thing I know for sure, because depending upon different people, like, okay, what's the worst you can do? Is the worst decision made by someone acceptable to me? Yes, it is. That's my risk assessment, right? So I'm assessing those risks and then and trusting people. So that helps them to be able to say like, well, my boss, my manager, my work colleague trusts me. And therefore I'm going to make those decisions. I'm just going to let him know that I've made this decision. And builds up amazing confidence in people. I've seen the shift in the people, the way they now talk and how they approach different problems, and that thought process has changed completely. So I'm like, oh, that's going good, brilliant. So at this rate, I'm going to get fired, right?
But you're elevating people.
Yeah, I've got to, right? Because otherwise, I'll become the bottleneck. I'll be exhausted, and and it's so wrong. Then it's like 100. Then that's just me being selfish, one, or in my head, the way I look at it is it portrays some sort of insecurity, because I want to hold everything, because I'm insecure about everything. It's a controlling thing. And the moment I release the control, I'm like, well, actually, there's nothing in my hand. So, but yes, of course, I trust people, and that's when kind of, and it's a controlled trust, right? Because I know there are certain things, if they are going to make a decision, is that going to impact the other things that I'm looking at, etc., because they don't have that vision, that knowledge level as to how different pieces connect together, right?
Yeah.
So, and therefore, it's empowering them, it's empowering me, because then I can concentrate on other things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you remember, Manish, when we did your soul profile?
Yes.
Yeah, and I had a little look at what was your, your energy type, and that was the divine love type, that are souls that are so good with people and that thrive in nurturing people, being supported, but also nurturing and supporting other people. And I mean, it's amazing because everything that you describe, it feels like it's a perfect fit, that it sounds like you're really operating from the way that your soul is designed to operate, by like supporting and nurturing and elevating other people, but in that process they're supporting you too, and it's a beautiful interdependent dynamic that works well.
Yeah. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
bringing that up, because Julie, I've thought about that, our discussion when you did the whole profile
Yeah.
thing. I've done so many times. I sometimes randomly I still do the meditation, the ones that you sent to me, and like when I want to fall asleep, and it still tremendously helps me quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also because I think it's the people we are working with,
Yeah.
and they're not slaves and they're not animals. You treat animals, your pets, better than probably other things, your sometimes your family members as well. But then again, they are people. And if they stop working, you're in trouble,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So why would I not take care of my people,
Yeah.
right? So it's, for example, things like, well, you have a horse, right? And then you want the horse to win the race, but you're not feeding the horse,
Yeah.
right? So well, forget about winning the race. Well, you probably have more expenses because you need to kind of take the horse to the vet. So that horse is as good as dead for you then, right?
Yeah.
But who's responsible for it? You're the one who's not looking after the horse.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that, like, I'm looking out for my horses. Oh yeah, I'm not saying that my horses, but
Yeah.
in that way, I'm meant to say
Yeah.
I'm looking after my people, making sure that they are good and
Yeah.
they are taken care of,
Yeah.
and their ambitions as well.
But when you're saying it that way, it sounds so obvious that that's the way to go. But we know that in the working world, in the corporate world, from talking to Mark, who is studying this, he's written a book about leadership from the heart, from his experience, it sounds like it's still a minority, this perspective, and the type of management that you're bringing on, is sadly not yet the majority of what's going on.
Definitely, Julie. I mean, what I am telling you probably sounds easy right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a hard work. It's hard work. That doesn't mean that I'm operating 100% capacity in the same way every day, right? I have bad days and I have terrible days, still do, right? And then, like, okay, but take a break, go for a walk and think about certain things, etc. Or just leave the topic completely, right? Come back in another day or another week, or if it's not that urgent. But it's, and you're right, because at the beginning of our session, as a career and spirituality, oh my God, it's a very complex topic, extremely complex topic, because spirituality comes from your heart. And when it comes to career, we are talking about capitalism, living, surviving, right? Not only your survival, your family, right? You've got kids, wife, etc., roof over your head, food on the table, clothes on your body, right? And if you have kids, then like schooling, etc., and then cost of living, everything keeps, it's a constant thing. And some people might just say, like, mate, spirituality is a luxury for some people, maybe like yourself, because I'm right now in a constant survival mode.
Yeah.
It's really hard work, and it's not that easy. I mean, I try and find it challenging, of course, because I don't want to come across like a hippie on my meetings, right? So when I'm at work, I'm like, all right, okay, don't worry about it. Like, the universe is gonna fix it on its own, right? Yeah, and I'm like, huh? Who is universe now? When did we hire the universe?
Yeah.
So how do you balance these two out?
Yeah.
Is important, and therefore, back to the point, taking a pause,
Yeah.
and and it helps, and
Yeah.
sending out those good vibes and energy early in the morning or before you work or during the day or whenever you feel stressed. Just if a person has been sending you like stressing you out, might as well send some good energy that
Yeah.
kind of helps you to kind of calm down, helps the other person calm down somehow.
Yeah. And what, you said, okay, this is a complex topic, spirituality was speaking, like energy was speaking, the heart, and career was speaking very tangible, like
Yeah.
necessary ensuring our survival. And it's like when we're talking spiritual being, we're spiritual being having a human experience. So we are a spiritual essence operating a physical body that needs to survive. And the caveat of the physical body is that nervous system that gets into survival mode, and when we're in survival mode, we are closing down the access to all things spiritual, to the
spiritual abundance, thoughts, creativity, strength, courage, confidence, everything.
Yeah. So in the end, I wonder, is like the secret to opening up to the spiritual pathway is very simply physical self-regulation, regulating our own body, our nervous system, so that we are not falling into survival mode, or we're managing our survival mode. So managing our animalistic nature. So like you said, managing the horse in a way, so that we're staying connected with our essence, with our spirit.
100%. And it's so important, so important. And that, like, because if you and that's where the whole point about, like, taking a pause and thinking about it, or just kind of just stop, pause, because otherwise you just go into a mental breakdown, as you mentioned, right? And it's like, because you're in a survival mode, you can't physically, practically you cannot stay in a survival mode for a very long time. Your body is going to crash, right? So therefore you need to take a break. And so it's very important to take care of yourself, either through definitely physical workout, because a healthy body, a healthy mind lives in a healthy body. That's important. But a mental exercise through works of meditation, reading, it is quite important as well, because that kind of widens up your horizon. Talking to people, I love talking, interacting with people. I'm like, I could just walk up to a random stranger and talk to that person for another half an hour, 1 hour.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know, Manish, I know.
So it just kind of helps you to move forward rather than being stuck, because I think it's from a philosophy, a psychological point of view, when you are in that survival mode, you've shrunk yourself, right? So as, like, the plants or different insects and animals, they do during the winters, they shrink themselves to conserve the heat, right, and to conserve the energy. because right now they are in a survival mode. And then sometimes when things kind of, the environment is good and safe, etc., then you start blossoming.
Yeah.
And we are human beings. It's more simple. It's easier for us, right? Because the only way you shrink is by thinking. Yeah.
Mm.
And so you can either make yourself a giant,
Yeah.
or you can make yourself as tiny as, I don't know, bacteria.
Yeah. So in a way, when shit hits the fan, so to speak,
Yeah.
at work, when it looks like we need to be focused outwards to the fire to extinguish or the problems around, counterintuitively, it's working on ourselves. It's calming down our own system.
Yeah.
That's the priority.
Oh, 100%. Oh, because then, so there are two ways, right? Because then you are in a reactive mode, and being in a reactive mode is not really a great thing, because then you don't have, it's a reaction, right?
Yeah.
So something hit you and then it kind of bounces off automatically. You don't have a choice. You're not doing it. But instead of being in a reactive mode, it takes some practice, and I still try and practice. I'm not going to say that I'm a master of it, but it's more about like act rather than react. So that means observe, absorb, okay, contemplate,
Yeah.
and then act. Say like, what is it that I need to do, right? And that will go a long way, because then you're slowing down the whole reaction, right? Because it's like, imagine one of those cameras, like high-speed cameras, like something you can see a pin flowing from point A to point B. In a normal camera, it's like boom, it's just gone. When you have a high-speed camera, you can slow down the whole reaction. And spirituality helps you, okay, and meditation helps you, and thought process helps you, and practicing all of these things helps you to build that high-speed camera, uh, to observe the pin moving slowly. Then you have the time, like Matrix, Neo.
Yes.
You can become the Neo, right?
Yeah.
Dodging those bullets.
Yeah. So when stress arises, when problems happen, just channel your inner Neo.
100%.
Yes.
Definitely channel your Neo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever needs. I mean, and I have certain things that helps me to do that. Like, sometimes when I need to do, I have a pen. I always keep a pen when I'm working, and I know I'm stressed. So I'm like, okay, that means I know. So now I'm subconsciously, I'm not even clicking the pen, but I know I'm stressed. And then at some stage, I'm like, oh, I've been clicking it for a while. That means I'm stressed. Right. Okay. Take a
Oh,
break. So these are like different cues you
yeah.
build, and nobody knows you better than yourself. So,
Yeah.
and then that conscious practice that helps you to kind of like, because I've noticed myself and caught myself, or being aware of it. Now I've caught myself like, okay, I'm clicking pen way too fast. Right. I'm definitely stressed, need to take a break. And we're like, okay, how do we go about fixing this, solving this problem?
So yeah, you're putting your finger on another important point, is that when we're starting to get stressed, usually that's where we're least able to have that self reflection, or to see ourselves. And so it's finding ways, like cues that is gonna make us be aware that we are getting stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So for
we
you,
all do. Yeah,
yeah.
we all do certain things. When we are stressed, we
Yeah.
all do something or the other. Maybe we don't know what we do, or we're not aware of it, but maybe from this point onwards, we see like different situations. What do we do, right? And or ask someone close to you. They would know. Your family members would know. Your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, or whoever, your parents. They would know what do you generally do when you're stressed, because they know you are stressed. You don't know you. Well, you know you're stressed, but you don't know what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly in your head. You're not in the physical body. You're in your head. So that probably might help for you to get those cues to try and find out, okay, this is what I do. And then next time, over a period of time, you kind of build that exercise.
Manish, thank you so much, because you've given us some very relatable insights of what it means when we're in the fire, and how to manage it in the moment, but also the bigger picture of when you manage it well in the moment, the impact that it has on the people around you, and how it makes the whole situation better. And in a way, it's getting it's getting what was possibly the problem in the first place to get resolved, but from you taking responsibility in the first place for your own state. So thank you very much for.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, and that's the way, right? Because the way, that's how I look at spirituality. And I've been lucky reading certain books, some of the authors, looking into those practicalist aspects of spirituality, because I can be, one of those hippies that like, well, I just want to do this, practice spirituality, etc., and all of those things. But in real practical life, the way we live, we need to find some practical ways to keep practicing our spirituality, keep growing. Because look, your career is going to end at some stage. It didn't start from the point you were born. It's not going to end at the point of your death until you die. It's a transition phase, but you need to, that's a very critical, important phase of your life as well. Right? And how you balance the two, because you need to keep building yourself to the next level of career. That's your spirituality. How you manage yourself, it helps you kind of live longer, probably, as well.
But at the start of the conversation, did you not say that about spirituality, that it's a way
of life.
A way of life.
Yes.
So you've explained it. You've given us a beautiful insight about when spirituality is not something that you do, but it's something that guides every aspect of your life. And I guess you're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to be spiritual, or I'm following my practice, and therefore I'm going to act like that with my co-workers. No, it's all integrated. You're not separating the spiritual from the practical. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a way of it needs to be a part of everything that you do, right? But I also, as you mentioned earlier, rightly, right, I'm a very practical guy, very, very practical guy. And being a human being, that I'm not going to be spiritual 24/7 every day of my working life, of my life, for that reason, right? There are times that I probably would not. But integrating it as a part of your life, it puts a meaning to it, if I were to say. Otherwise, you're just a hamster in the wheel, right? Because you're just kind of running. I don't know, why am I running? Because I'm getting paid. Oh, because I need to get paid, because I need to pay blah, 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 blah. But doing this as a part of your life, it adds a meaning to it. It certain things that you feel like, okay, yeah. But this is what you're doing for yourself as a soul, and not as a human body.
Wow.
Your soul doesn't need money and shelter, right? Your human body does need it. But then again, the powerhouse lives inside your body, right? Where you're not feeding anything to that. It's like taking a horse, and then you want the horse to kind of run you a, I don't know, intergalactic race, right? And then you basically don't want to feed your soul. Then the soul is like, yeah, right, I'm exhausted, right?
No, that doesn't work. So in a beautiful way, you're by living by your essence, your true nature, which is this very kind and loving man who loves people. You're nurturing the soul, but you've also created all of the resources that you need for also the body and survival very successfully. So it's like the circle is closed.
I really, you actually touched upon that, and you have no idea. This is like I'm smiling deep from inside. That, yeah, because I want to get out of the first circle. I'm at the intersection. I'm a human being, and I want to join the big boys club. You know.
Yeah.
So, so it's more about like, therefore, putting some effort, focus onto that, and like, well, okay, I don't remember sitting on that particular chair in that particular circle, and I would love to experience that chair in that circle. So therefore, manifestation again, right? So you're like, well, and now it's more to do with like either you constantly keep manifesting it and keep doing what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And Manish, so we are like slightly already over time. I don't want to keep you for too long, but to conclude, is there anything that maybe I haven't asked you that you want to share, or like anything you want to leave our viewers with?
Yeah. So one of the things, most important thing is not one, but I would say like 3 or 4 things. Uh, uh, I would say practical
Mhm.
thing to summarize. One is um, try and when you before you start work, either working from home, going into the office, you just send a huge blessing from your heart, right? And over a period, and a conscious one. Initially you might not feel, you might find it very weird, etc. But trust me on this, when you do that over a period of time, you will see the changes happening on its own automatically, the dynamics, the energy shifting around you without you doing anything, right? That's one. Second would be, yeah, when you get anxious, you under pressure, etc., right? If you're not aware of it, try and find those cues for you to become aware of it. That's very important. But it's not just becoming aware, but what you do after that awareness is most important, because the power in when I was, I think, about 12 or 13, there was this book called The Power of Execution. It was around the same time when the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that came out. So the power of execution is very important in this, not just being aware, but being executing that awareness is important.
Mm.
And look after your people. You spend a significant amount of time at work with your people, with your work colleague. Not saying they are your people, etc., but they are people that you're interacting with, right? You need something from them, they need something from you, right? Otherwise, we won't be interacting if we don't need anything from me. So therefore, treat them nicely, and also be more kinder with them. And then if you have, it doesn't matter whether they are seniors or your juniors, right? If someone's going through, you've come into a knowledge or an information about they're going through a hard time, just drop them a note or a line. How are you really feeling? And if there is anything you need, and actually mean it, really, really mean it, because otherwise it's just fake, and everybody knows that, right? And last but not the least, spirituality is a way of life.
Yeah,
So
spirituality is a way of life.
yeah,
Yes.
don't give up on it. Don't give up on it.
Yeah. And we've gone full circle. Your
We've gone
last
full circle.
words, your last words were your first words. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much, Julie. It
Oh,
was
thank you.
lovely.
Thank you so much for your openness and yes, and being who you are. Thank you so much. Um,
Thank you.
and on these words, I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone, and I will see you in a next career and spirituality conversation next week. Goodbye, everybody. I love
Goodbye.
you.
Ciao.